I'm Staff Sergeant Gonzalez. If you're a Marine who's had questions about becoming an officer, today I sit down with the OSO. This gentleman is a Michigan native, manufactured in Detroit, and is your ideal Marine leader. And not just because he's buff, which he is, but after getting to know him, I can tell you that he is a humble servant leader who has paid his dues over time. After a few tours in Afghanistan, earning his combat action ribbon, and leading the ranks as a platoon commander, XO, and eventually CO with Lima Company 37, he's now here to answer your questions today in the rawest form possible, Marine to Marine.
Cracchiola.
Hey Marines, we're here with Captain Cracchiello, aka Captain Crack. Sir, thanks for coming down here.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Most Marines I speak to on a daily basis are in the IRR, Individual Ready Reserve. And a lot of times they have questions about becoming an officer. You're the duty expert at what you do, so I was hoping you can answer a few questions for me.
Sure.
First question is, well, first of all, if you could just walk me through the typical scenario. I've got a Corporal Smith, let's say he did 4 years active, served one tour in Afghanistan. Now he's in the IR, he's got a couple years of college under his belt. Walk me through this typical scenario of how the Marine can walk into your office and ultimately get accepted to the OCS.
Okay, so guy comes into the office and he's a prior. He's a prior, he's in the IRR, he's a reservist, whatever he is. If he was in any branch, just the rule of the office is that he gets front of line privileges, no matter what. So Marines or people that serve just get front of line privileges. So he comes in, there's a packet that Marine could fill out. It's an application process, and it's not difficult. This isn't brain surgery by any means. That Marine fills that out, and then we check for stuff that typical Marines have waiver-wise. So we go through the whole, do you have tattoos? I know you're medically qualified because you've been in the Marine Corps, so I know that you're PQ'd, you're physically qualified. But I worry about stuff like, what's the tattoo on your forearm doing, right? So we got to go through the waiver process. If the Marine doesn't have any waivers, this is a pretty easy day. There's a board process. The board for someone who's in college full-time is in Chicago. And that board selects or labels you as a non-select. And if you're a non-select, you can reapply. If you're a select, you go to OCS. If you're in full-time school, if you go to OCS and you graduate from both those things, you could be a lieutenant.
29 years of age, that's usually cut off in most cases, but a lot of guys I talk to are usually at that or over because they did 4 years active or 8 years active, they get out. Can a prior service Marine apply after 29 years of age, or do you go off of constructive age? For example, are there unique circumstances or waivers if they're like a black female pilot?
No, it's all the same. Good question though. It's interesting because one of the first things we do is screen people for what kind of waivers do they have, if any.
Yeah.
When somebody doesn't have anything medical or anything moral or any kind of waiver at all, it's kind of rare. So biggest thing is there's a board process, and if the person comes in and they're over 28 years old, it's an age waiver. And so we're pretty good at writing those because we do them all the time, but that person's age waiver getting approved by the board directly correlates to the PFT score.
Okay.
So if that Marine, thank God he's a Marine already, or he knows what a PFT is, or that civilian that comes in that's 29 years old, they better be able to run. Because if they've got a 250 or below, one, they're not going to be boarded anyways because you need at least a 250 PFT to be on the board.
Yeah.
But to be competitive, you're talking 285 and above to get that waiver approved. So be in shape and it'll get approved.
Good to go. Let's say, for example, they already have a private pilot's license, and they want to know if that increases their chances of being a pilot, or if they handle supplies at a distribution center or Home Depot, they want to become a logistics officer. What bearing does your civilian career have if you want to go for an officer and go towards that route?
Yeah, almost none. It helps.
Why's that?
Don't get me wrong, it definitely helps. It doesn't help with the fact that you're actually going to get that job or not. It helps that you already have a background in it. So all I'm saying here is, like, everybody, no matter what, goes to OCS, no matter what. Whether you go there for 2 6-week iterations over 2 summers or 1 10-week iteration, it's called PLC or OCC. Everybody goes to Officer Candidate School. It's the same place in Quantico where every officer goes. And then when you're done with that, and you're done with school, you go to the basic school when you're a lieutenant. When you're at the basic school as a lieutenant, you're going to pick your top 5 jobs. So I'll answer the first one. For pilots, if a pilot in air contract is at the basic school, they already know they're going to flight school. So I don't throw the word guarantee around a lot, but for pilots, if you're in air contract and you go to OCS, nobody cares what you want to fly. You go to TBS, nobody cares what you want to fly. You just know that you're going to go to flight school after TBS. So you're already good.
Okay, so it holds a little bit of weight.
It does, yeah. I mean, it helps you to get that far because to even go to OCS as a pilot, you're going to need to pass an ASTB, which is just a test that most pilots pass and most criminal justice students from Michigan State do not pass. So the AST happens in my office. So that's where that goes down at. But it helps in that you have some product knowledge. I mean, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It'll help you in terms of the hours of sleep you get every night at flight school. I mean, that's really what helps.
Yeah.
As far as being a logistician and you want to be a logo in the Marine Corps, express that you want to do that at TBS, do well at TBS, and you'll get that job. Most of the time, people get the job they want. It doesn't do the Marine Corps any good to give somebody a job they don't want to do because they'll probably be bad at it. So that's why we take that into account.
But let's say the typical scenario, you got a Marine that EASs, completes a few years of school while he's in the IRR. How would joining the reserves benefit him when applying for OCS versus the typical Joe Schmo who hasn't been in uniform for the past 2 years?
I mean, if you're a reservist, and it's just me, it's just my rule, it's just our office's rule, but automatically you're going to get front line privileges. So that's just one thing, no matter what. But two, like I said, there's a board process for this. So no matter who comes in, guy, girl, whoever comes in, reservist, civilian, they're going to go through the application process and they're going to go through the board process. And all that board means is that a group of lieutenant colonels get together in either Chicago or San Diego and review your packet along with everybody else's. It makes you more competitive. So the board knows that you're a prior, or the board knows that you're a reservist.
Yeah.
So being either helps you substantially get selected. You want to get selected because if we don't, we're just doing paperwork for no reason.
True.
So when that person gets selected, and again, they have a way higher chance if they're a reservist or in the IRR, then they get, I mean, you're going to OCS. You're getting exactly what you want. Just be competitive. And then to be competitive, we're talking a PFT that's solid, a GPA in college, you're full-time in college, that's solid. And we're talking you don't have a ton of waivers. And most Marines don't have a ton of waivers because they're Marines. Now, granted, like as an 03, we've got 11s walking around, 03, 11 types, covered in tattoos. Like, I got it. Okay, tattoo policy is what it is. But most of the time, Marines don't have waivers. Most of the time, Marines are good to go.
Okay. And it's just a question on the fly. Tattoos. You guys' tattoo policy standards versus our tattoo policy standards.
Right.
How is that different?
I'm not going to pretend like I don't have a massive tattoo on my back. Officers have tattoos. You just can't see them. So if you have a tattoo, no matter where it is on your body, it's a waiver, no matter what. It's automatically going to be a waiver. So if you tell me that you have a moto tat on your chest, whatever, it's a district level waiver, and the colonel knows that you are a prior or you are a Marine, whatever, it's not a big deal. We have pretty level-headed officers all the way up to General Blackus, who makes the MICRIC waivers happen. So I had a guy last year as an example that had a tattoo on the inside of his lip. He got it removed. It's a MICRIC exception to policy waiver. He got it removed. It's like he never did it. He just made that decision at some point in his life. We wrote a waiver, got approved. That guy's lieutenant now.
Tore it off, gave it to you. Done.
Yeah, right, yeah. I can put it on my wall. But really the policy is if it's, ankle up and it's covered by PT gear, obviously no neck or above, but below the C7 and it's covered by PT gear, it's a district level waiver.
Okay.
There are no RS level tattoo waivers for us. That automatically goes to Colonel Morris, as it is right now. If you could see it like it's on your leg, or you could see it like it's on your forearm, it's got to be covered by a hand. We're rolling the dice, right? Because it's going to region. So we're rolling the dice. If you've got it anywhere else, sometimes females have tattoos on their feet. You can't have anything on your hand. We're talking way up there.
Yeah.
So I had a guy that was a Navy E4 type, and he had a wedding ring tattoo, and he got approved.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a huge no-no.
So
good for him.
Yeah. I mean, they'll approve him if it makes sense. If a guy's got some atrocious tattoo and it's off color and it's derogatory, it's just not going to get approved. I mean, it's common sense.
Yeah. All right, sir. So my final question for you: what exactly are you looking for when speaking to a veteran Marine? In other words, what's your ideal candidate?
My ideal candidate. If we're talking about somebody who was a Marine at some point, my ideal candidate would be, I don't care what your MOS was, I really don't care. As long as you want to do this. I make a huge point about not selling this stuff because I don't sell it. And you don't really need to sell it to Marines. If an enlisted Marine wants to be an officer, awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a good one that he emulates. Maybe he had a bad one that he couldn't stand. We've all been there. So I don't care what your reason is. I hope it's the right reason. It's certainly not for a cool uniform, and it's not for money. So whatever your reason is of wanting to do this thing, awesome. I'm going to ask. I have to know. It's part of a 100-word essay. Like I have to know what it is.
Yeah.
But most people's reasons are their own.
So the essay is part of the process?
It is part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah, the 100-word essay is something when you're being boarded by those folks in Chicago or those people in San Diego, those colonels, they're looking at a photo of you. They're looking at a 100-word essay that you write.
So start your essay now.
Right. It's super short, and that's the point. Like your penmanship, your punctuation, your grammar, so on and so on. But it's your reason for wanting to do this. That's what the essay is.
Okay.
It's only 100 words, and it's part of the package. So this is all important, and I hope people want to do this. And it always surprises me how many people actually want to be officers, and I love it because it makes my job easier. But my ideal candidate, somebody who's in shape, somebody who doesn't have a ton of waivers. But even if you do and you're a Marine, I'll write them anyways. It's not my, I'll do the paperwork. But really just somebody that wants to take care of the dude on their left and the right. That's really all it's about. If you want to be an officer, you don't do it for shiny stuff. Like that's not the point. You do it because there's some O3XX out there, or there's some whoever out there that needs a good leader.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. There's several reasons, right? But like, if that's the backbone of what you're doing this for, you're not doing it for you. It's not for what goes on here. It's not for your little stack. It's for somebody else's benefit, to be their guy, to hook them up, to be that guy's support, whatever. That's what it's all about. It's all about the guy that gets on an SOI or the guy that gets on an MCT and trying to be in charge of somebody, and really just I don't want to say giving a shit because we'll edit that, I guess, in post, but I'm just saying, like, be the guy that cares about the Marines.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well said, sir. So I want to thank you for watching another episode of Ask PSR. I'm Staff Sergeant Gonzalez.
And I'm Captain Cracchiola. If you want to be an officer, look up your local OSO. If you're in Michigan, give me a call. Put my number right here, right? Come into the office. We'll do some paperwork. We'll get it done. Appreciate you.
Sir, we out.
All right.
Yeah.